All right, I got a public service announcement for everybody. Seriously, people. Please stop panic buying toilet paper. Some of us just want to normal buy it, and the shelves are empty. I have a grocery delivery service that I use. I'm a single guy in New York, so, you know. Yes, there's a girlfriend, but I mean, I'm not married. I don't have kids. So I get my groceries delivered to me. It's normal in New York. I don't know how many of you do this elsewhere in the country. You have cars. You probably drive the grocery store. I have no toilet paper. I kept clicking on different, I even started going for like that sort of like third tier toilet paper that's from reusable something or other. You're like, ooh, that's going to chafe. That's not going to be very nice. None of that either. Can't get toilet paper delivered. First time in my life. And then I go to the drugstore on my corner, which is like it's a Duane Reade. It's one of those big drugstores where you basically can do all your grocery shopping now too. And no toilet paper. And I'm looking around. I'm like, I don't understand. I went on Amazon. Couldn't get any toilet paper delivered by Amazon. I'm going to my neighborhood stores. I'm going online. Can't get toilet paper, folks. What is going on here? What are we trying to do to the Buckster? This is nuts. Producer Mark, do you have a strategic TP supply? If so, you may need to help out your favorite radio host here at some point.
Yeah, I have an entire box of it because I go to BJ's, so I went months ago. And I've got I think 2 or 3, things left.
Those things are going to be worth more than cigarettes in prison. Yeah. It's crazy.
Try getting hand sanitizer now.
Well, that's for hand sanitizer. I'm not a believer in that stuff anyway.
Why?
That's great because you sanitize your hands while you're breathing in the viral particles in the air.
That's fair.
I mean, it lessens your risk a little bit, but not.
I used
enough.
hand sanitizer way before the coronavirus.
Yeah, I mean, so for some people, I think they're just in the habit of using this stuff.
Yeah.
I hate the smell of it too. When I'm on the subway and someone starts using hand, by the way, I sneezed on the subway this morning.
Oh, no.
Oh, I went right into the elbow.
Yeah.
Right in the elbow. I'm telling you, a dude looked at me like, I will kill you. I was like, dude, I'm not sick. I had a little, my beard itched my nose for a second. It was nothing.
You can still sneeze without being sick. It's possible.
Of course.
Yeah.
But you sneeze on the New York City subway these days, everyone just tenses up and, I'm telling you, you can walk in the subway and say anything you want. I mean, you can walk in the subway and
you could walk on the subway naked and nobody would care.
Yeah, no. Oh, naked? No, I don't even know if that's illegal in De Blasio's New York. I think you can. Huh? I think as long as you say,
how there's that website Weird Laws that are on the books but not enforced. I think you can technically a woman can walk around topless.
100%. I've seen it.
But that was and
I don't just mean on dates. I've seen it. On the street, there have been ladies
and it's illegal.
without and they'll walk around as and they'll do it, I don't know, as a freedom thing or as a form of protest, but yeah.
But it is illegal to put your thumb to your nose and wiggle your fingers around to a police officer.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that is a law that's on the books in New York.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that is. I swear to you, that is a law that is on the books in New York.
I'm always kind of amazed at people who seem to think that the person who is empowered by the state to arrest you and to use force against you is a good and who is carrying usually now they're carrying a taser as well as a lot of times they'll have a collapsible baton as well. I think they call them like a Cobra or an whatever. You know what I mean? Those collapsible. They'll have a collapsible baton. They'll have a taser, and they have a loaded sidearm, obviously. And people just love to antagonize them. Now,
is
usually
that really an antagonization. You're wiggling your fingers at them with your thumb on your nose.
Well, I mean, I think some officers would probably think that was kind of funny and stupid.
Exactly.
But I mean, really get up in their faces and be like, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, you wouldn't do this to a person who's just a person walking around with a gun and a collapsible baton. I'm always amazed when people think that I'm really going to get into it with a law enforcement officer for no reason, just because I want to show everybody how tough I am or something. It's
that seems like a little farther than the thumb on the nose.
I've got a lot further than the thumb on the nose. I'm just surprised that that's a law.
I would do the thumb on the nose just for fun.
Since we got you here, and since now we've established that producer Mark is the strategic TP reserve, the penalty box has got the toilet paper if needed. Thank you for that. I feel a little bit better now because I'm starting to get a little bit what am I going to do? Use paper towel with some aloe vera or something? Tissues would work. But can you put tissues in the toilet?
It depends on how good your plumbing is.
Yeah, no, I'm in one of these new buildings where it's it feels like I'm in Tokyo. Everything, this stuff is all very modern, but it's not like those old pipes where you could fit an alligator in there back in the day. So I got to ask you, there's $4,500 that's being offered right now for the purposes
Oh,
of
I know where you're going
science,
with no.
inject yourself with coronavirus.
I would need a lot more money than 40. Though I would get some time off of work.
Well, it's one of these things where, when you get sick, there's the feeling, I don't know if you share this or not. There's the feeling you have when you get sick and you did something. Like I've gotten sick before where, I was out all weekend partying. I stayed out super late. I was hitting on foreign chicks. I had too many shots. I didn't get enough sleep. I rallied and then like Monday I've got a sore throat and it's like, yeah, of course, you idiot, right?
Yeah.
And then there are times you're just like being a good dude. You're like, I'm working hard these days. You wake up in the morning, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got, the flu or something, right? Think about, and I always feel worse when it's the first one. The second one, I'm like, hey, sometimes it's your day. If you took the $4,500 and then you found yourself really sick, how do you justify that to yourself?
You don't.
You're really.
Do they pay for your medical bills too?
I would assume that I'm assuming if you end up like intubated in the ICU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth the 2 weeks off of work to get injected with this.
By the way, did you upload I don't think we did this. Did we get the Italian guy who's complaining about
It was in Italian?
Yeah, I know. I wanted it.
Oh. I thought you just didn't realize that it was in Italian.
No, of course. I realize everything. Well, not everything. I realize most of the time.
Because it was English subtitled. So
no, I know, but I like it because he's like, hey.
Yeah,
so
nobody would understand.
There's audio. I know, but I was going to explain. It's very quick. There's a guy in Italy who's just like, can everyone stop buying all the pasta? This is worse. He says, it looks like he might have lived through it. He says this is worse than it was during World War II. Like you're going into stores, there's nothing there. So he's like, I want my pasta. And, except he says it in Italian. And he's, it's quite a scene. This is how I feel. I'm walking around New York City. I'm trying to find strategic toilet paper supply. It's crazy, man.
How's the food looking on the shelves in New York?
Food, I haven't seen any change in that at all. I do think the subway's a little more sparse than it has been.
I agree with you. The trains are
a little bit less. I took that train out on Long Island Railroad to get the JFK a couple weeks ago, and that train was absolutely. They couldn't even take our tickets because it was so packed in the aisles.
That's the LIRR.
That's crazy.
Every single day, Buck.
I felt like I was in the Soviet Union. I'm like, why did I spent $10 or $12 on a ticket? I was like, I shouldn't have even done that. There's no point.
You could just reuse it.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So, okay, you wouldn't take the $4,500, but have you seen the bad coronavirus cures? The things that people are putting out there yet?
I have.
Which is the dumbest to you?
I think masturbation was on there.
Wow.
I mean, come on, that is the dumbest.
I didn't know it was on there. Circle gets the square. that's yeah. Woo! I didn't know that was one of them. Man, people really do need to
cocaine was on there.
They need to get a grip about this stuff. Cocaine is on there. That's one that I saw. Wait, here, the bad coronavirus cures: snorting cocaine and drinking bleach. Here's a public service announcement. If you had Ebola virus, I would tell you that drinking a large quantity of bleach was in fact even more dangerous than having Ebola virus because you'll probably die in a matter of a couple of hours. What is wrong with people? How does this stuff get circulated?
I really want to know if somebody drank bleach.
Oh, I'm sure people do. People are eating the Tide Pods for a while.
That's a good point.
People do this stuff.
Why?
Because if it's on the internet, it must be true. Snorting cocaine, drinking bleach, apparently autoerotica, which I think is how the scientists describe it. These are all fake things that are also some kind of like a colloidal silver or something I've seen, which I don't even really know what. I think that's like liquid silver.
I think people are just so stupid they see a meme,
and
they don't realize it's not true.
People have called in, huge doses of different vitamins, all this stuff, dangerous, bad, doesn't work. Trust me on this one. If there was some cool immunity, keeping your immunity high, getting enough sleep, getting enough rest, that's very important. That's good. You got to do those things. You want to keep your immune system as strong as you can, but that's a very holistic approach. That takes a lot of things. This other stuff they're talking about, like a miracle cure for this, no. Wow, drink. This is nuts. There's a lot of there's, as you know, a ton of irresponsible stuff on the internet, and just some other things that are going on right now about coronavirus. The markets are really waiting on the bailouts. Are the bailouts actually going to happen or not? We have to see. I think that there will be. major government action. The government's going to take out the checkbook and start, really propping up industries, and that'll be interesting. I've already talked about the toilet paper thing. It's in Australia too. Other countries, people are panic. So the problem with panic buying is it begets more panic buying. Now I'm somebody who's like, if I see a lot of nice high quality, like the toilet paper with the little bear that's rubbing its face with it or whatever, right? Isn't that, or is that the Downy fabric softener? I'm confused.
I believe that's Charmin.
Charmin. Yeah, no, that is toilet paper, right?
Yeah, Charmin toilet paper.
Yeah. I want the little bear with the thing that's rubbing on the face.
You want to use a bear as toilet paper?
No, but I'm saying that's the insignia of the nice toilet paper. There's I'm not going to start calling out brands that are bad, but there are some toilet paper brands where and it's like what they have at institutions, like what they'd have in a university library. You never like that toilet paper.
My in-laws have really bad plumbing, so they have like the one-ply bad toilet, and I can't do that.
Yeah, you end up, wrapping that stuff around your hand like you're a mummy. You end up really using
you're basically
a lot more
wiping
of it.
with your hand.
Whoa, hey, no, I just go through a whole roll of toilet paper if I have to. We gotta keep it clean. So there's a toilet paper issue. This had nothing to do with coronavirus, but as I was looking for updates, health updates, they've also, thank you science, they've also discovered a completely new strain of chlamydia under the ice in the Arctic. I want to be like, guys, one thing at a time. All right, we're already dealing with coronavirus. We don't need some new super strain of chlamydia that you found drilling in the Arctic. This is a real thing. It's like, let's keep the chlamydia in the Arctic under the ice where it belongs. Let's not disturb it. Start spreading it around. So, just look, I want the public health to be good. I think it's important. And there's also now an effort underway in the city of Newark is saying, we were talking about disinformation around this. The city of Newark is saying that if they find people spreading disinformation about coronavirus, they're going to arrest them. I'm like, well, under what authority do they have to do that? That was very Big Brother. That was a little bit of a surprise. So look, we're following this. We're on it. I will say this, and maybe we should mark this down as a prediction. I think we're going to be okay. I don't think this is going to be as bad as a lot of people are suggesting it will be overall. We're going to have a day, I'd say in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to have a day where this is really scary. And I'm going to have to come in here and say, all right, everybody, deep breath. I know, we got a lot of infections. It's going to happen. Be prepared for that. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be as out of control and as bad as other people have been saying, but we are not out of the woods. We're going to be sometime, I'd say, the first week of April. It's going to get ugly out there. It's going to get ugly, and then it's going to recede, and we'll be okay. But get ready for it. But don't panic buy toilet paper. You don't need enough toilet paper for 6 months.
Honestly, it sounds almost so silly to say, but there's a lot of restaurants that are feeling the pain of racism, where people are literally not patroning Chinese restaurants. They're not patroning Asian restaurants because of just straight up racism around the coronavirus.
I love that I can count on AOC to teach me new words that don't exist. Patroning the restaurant. Now, maybe this is a slang that I have not yet ever been introduced to, but I think she means patronizing, and I think that AOC also didn't learn that much in English class because maybe she was so focused on getting that high school science prize that she was bragging about on Twitter to millions of people a few weeks ago. Okay. But also her overall contention here that people aren't going into Asian restaurants, mostly Chinese, I'm assuming some Japanese restaurants too, Korean restaurants, out of racism, just goes to show you that the left really doesn't even understand what racism means anymore. This has been the case for a long time. They've expanded racism beyond what a normal definition of it, what our understood definition of it had been for a long time. If people aren't going to a Chinese restaurant because they're concerned that there have been the highest number of cases in China and that there could be contacts because people could be visiting family, because there could be people traveling back and forth. Now, I know a lot of people would say, Buck, a lot of Chinese restaurants are run by people born in America and never step out. True, but it's not that the people that are worried and they're scared. they're not worried, or rather, they're not making that decision because they have anything against Chinese people. They don't like Chinese people. That would be racism. They're just scared, and they're making a decision based on fear, but it's fear of getting exposure to a virus that we're all being told by the media right now is going to come for all of us any day now. And it's not in any way rooted in disdain or distaste or dislike of another race. That's racism. The same problem we've seen now when they discuss how we shouldn't call it Wuhan virus. No, we should call it Wuhan virus because that's what we do. We tend to call outbreaks of different viruses by names that are based in their point of origination, or at least where they're first discovered. Zika, Lyme, Ebola, West Nile, influenza. Who even knows where influenza comes from as a term? Well, as we know, the flu has probably been around. The first description of it, I think, it is believed to have been written about by Hippocrates, the father of the Hippocratic Oath. And it was the cough of, I think it was Perinthus in the 5th century BC. If I get this right, I'm pretty awesome, by the way, because we're going deep in the memory banks here. That was the first time that Hippocrates wrote about what was believed to be a flu. The term influenza, which is where we get flu from, which is how we generally refer to all these different viruses, comes from 14th century Italians who thought that it was the influence, that's influenza, the influence of the stars and sort of the celestial on people, that's where the sickness was coming from. Believe it or not, that was in the 14th century what they were thinking, that there was some cosmic connection to this, and it was the influence of the stars. So that's where we get the term. I've also talked about epidemic and pandemic, right? Epidemic on the people, pandemic all the people, descriptions for severity of outbreaks of these diseases on the people, the demos. Also where we get the word democracy. So AOC saying it's racist is just yet again another time when wokeness interferes with normal brain function. It's obviously not racist. People are not. Now, it could be wrong. They could be overreacting. But it's not because all of a sudden they've discovered that they don't like people from China. It's because they associate people from China with a higher incidence of this disease because it is the epicenter of this, and they just want to limit their exposure as much as possible. You know, we're being told to avoid all people. We're being told to avoid all human contact, and with this social distancing policy as much as we can. Although, how much can we really even do that? When you have people that scared, they're going to make decisions that go above and beyond. I mean, look, I ordered Chinese food last week. I'll go into Chinese restaurants all over the place. I think that that's silly, but I'm just saying it's not rooted in racism. It's just rooted in fear of exposure. People would be afraid. Would I go to Italy right now? No. Am I anti-Italian? No. Am I racist against it? By the way, China is really a nationality, not a race, but nonetheless, am I racist against Italian people? Absolutely not.
That number was obnoxious. There are murderers who will get out of court faster than Harvey Weinstein will. That number spoke to the pressure of movements and the public. That number did not speak to the evidence that came out at trial. That number did not speak to the testimony that we heard. That number did not speak to evidence, nor did it speak to justice. I am overcome with anger at that number. I think that number is a cowardly number to give. I think the judge caved, just as I believe the jury caved, and I am not happy.
That was the defense. Now, I understand there's always a little bit of a balancing act you have to do here when you're playing sound bites. That was clearly the lawyer for Weinstein, and I know there's a whole other side to this, the side that won the prosecution. But that's just the sound that we had in reference to Weinstein getting 23 years in prison for the sexual assault of 2 women, years ago. And look, Weinstein, who is a super powerful Democrat, bundler for Hillary, friend of the Obamas, friend of Hillary and Bill Clinton, raised millions of dollars for Democrat causes. This guy was the elite lib establishment to a T. Don't forget that. But, he's a bad guy, All right. Not that I don't like his policies. He's clearly a bad human being. And I do think he's getting what he deserves insofar as he should be punished for, sexual assault on women. I mean, the things that he did, if somebody who wasn't Harvey Weinstein did, people would be saying, yeah, you can't like throw a woman down. And when she's saying, no against her will, keep doing things and keep. So, I think Harvey Weinstein is going away, and that's a good thing. 23 years, if we're talking about sexual assault sentences, and the severity of this, 23 years seems like it is longer than most people will get for killing somebody. That's true. It's a lot longer than a lot of people get for manslaughter. It's longer than people will often serve for murder, too. So, usually that's 25 to life, but people will get parole. Now, maybe Harvey Weinstein would get parole too, but he's in his 60s. If this is his sentence, he's appealing it, but he's going to die in prison. Now, I don't like Harvey Weinstein. I have nothing favorable to say about this guy. I think he's an extreme dirtbag, and I think he did assault women. I don't think it was just that he was dangling in front of them the prospect of a better career or whatever, and that they just consented. I think that he, physically transgressed and then would try to cover it up with, oh no, I just thought that was okay. And, essentially he was like a habituated date rapist in a sense, right? So he was habitually doing this, which is why they tried to charge him with being a sexual predator, which would have sent him to prison for life. But I can't help but notice that this reminds me, in the early, Harvey Weinstein was one of the first big Me Too cases that came up. And there are a lot of very powerful people that protected this guy, that covered up for him, and they will never be held to account for it. Remember that. NBC News will never be held to account for killing this story. They didn't want to mess with Harvey Weinstein. Weinstein was hiring all these private eyes and detectives and stuff, too, to go after him. He's a really scary, really bad guy. So, okay, fine. Rot in hell, Harvey Weinstein. No problem with that. The sentence does feel like it's there's a little bit of a political message being sent as well for the Me Too era and all that. I mean, if he got 10 years, I'd say, yeah, that's what I would have guessed, 10 to 15. How much do we really care, though? The guy's in his late 60s. I mean, if he serves 15 years, he's really not going to spend much time on the outside anyway. All that said, though, I've said this before, and this is separate from the specifics of, or rather, I'm separating myself from the specifics of the Weinstein case here to this one factoid, which is that now Weinstein's case has established that a woman can claim years after the fact that she had a consensual sexual relationship with somebody, and at some point or any point before or during that admittedly consensual sexual relationship, that person, that man, committed a felony rape assault for which his life should be ruined and he should go to prison for decades. In Harvey Weinstein's case, that seems like it's probably true and appropriate, right? Like that's okay, he's a bad guy. Do any of you doubt, given what we saw with Kavanaugh, which was when Ronan Farrow was called into service on that one, a lot of the Me Too machinery they tried to use to throw at Kavanaugh to destroy him. At some point, and I can't tell you when, and people might forget that I'm making this prediction, but just give it some time, you will have a very powerful movement, a person who is important for the left to destroy. We'll have a woman come forward who has had who had an admittedly consensual sexual relationship with that person, and she will claim that one night when they were maybe a little drunk or they'd had a fight and he thought it was okay, and she said you'll get it. There'll be this sort of gray area thing, and they'll say which usually would be adjudicated in a way where you'd say, okay, well, I mean, if you think that somebody did this and the next day you tell them you love them and you continue to have sex with them for the next 5 years, how did they really commit a felony rape against that person? That would have been the thinking before. The thinking now will be different. You're going to have some guy. I'm guaranteeing you, if this happens, it will be somebody the left wants to destroy. And you'll have a woman come forward and say that there was that I had a long-term sexual relationship with this person, but one time he raped me, and the entire apparatus will come forward and say, rapist must be destroyed. And now, is it possible to rape somebody in the confines of a marriage? Of course it is, right? I'm not saying this isn't possible. I'm just saying that it will no longer be considered really a defense if the person the next day was saying, literally, I love you, you're my sun, my moon, and my stars, and we need to continue to have sex together, and everything is fine. That did not sway the jury in the Weinstein case. That seems to me to be a change in the way that we'll be thinking about these kinds of trials going forward, but it's only going to be a change that is unjust when it is applied for reasons of essentially, assassinating someone's character for political reasons. It's going to happen. This is going to be the new, the next time it won't, because, and really, in a sense, they tried something, they tried this, having women come forward to lie about Kavanaugh. That was a political hit. They were liars. There were women who were delusional, but they were weaponized by the left to take down a very important target. What you're going to have will be somebody who, people get very angry when relationships end. People get very angry after a divorce, messy divorce. And if, a target of the left, if they can find someone who, really hates. I mean, I know people who have tried to get their exes thrown into prison. I know people who have, lied to the police about. I mean, people do really bad stuff here. Now you can say, oh, yeah, well, this one time, I said no, and he didn't listen, and he raped me. And even though we lived a happy life for 5 years after the fact, and we were, married even or whatever, nope, that one time, I want that now that we're divorced and I hate him, and he's a high-profile target for whatever reason, I want that adjudicated as a rape claim. Look, we had Christine Blasey Ford come forward, could not even prove that she had ever met Kavanaugh. Never mind that he'd assaulted her. Nobody could even prove that even ever happened. That they were in the same place. Didn't know where it was, didn't know when it was, didn't know how she got home. But the narrative was, yep, no, he assaulted me. And everyone said, oh, she must be believed, even though the facts were all that she shouldn't be believed. Now think about how easy it will be if someone chooses to say, if they are scorned or if they hate somebody they used to have a relationship with and they really want to get even. And this does happen in life. This does happen. There was one time when, and even though the relationship continued, I was very happy and said I was very happy and we continued to have a sexual relationship, there was this one time. That's a legacy of this case that I don't think a lot of people see, and maybe I could be wrong. Maybe this is just a one-off and the dirtbag Harvey Weinstein goes away forever and, everything is fine. This never happens. But I used to go on radio saying they were going to weaponize Me Too, and they did against Kavanaugh. I could see this getting added into that. That's all I'm making a prediction about the future, not a commentary on specifically whether Weinstein's guilty. I think Weinstein is guilty. But in terms of what's going to happen going forward, this case has real ramifications.
It's time for roll call.
Hey, team, I have a request. So I'm doing the show on WOR. Those of you who are listening on podcast, it's a New York-specific show, but download it, will you? Check it out. 710WOR.com/Buck. It's not the same as this show. It's a different hour. It focuses more on New York-related stuff, but especially if you're in the New York area, it would be really helpful. We'd love to see those numbers go up a little bit because that's we got a lot of people, a lot of eyes on that show as well as this. This show grows all the time. Thank you very much, team, for passing the buck. We want that show to grow too because that will be helpful for all. Facebook.com/Buck Sexton. Crystal, first up here. Hey, Buck, who names the podcast? They're witty and I enjoy them. Shields high. Well, Crystal, we have a very unique and intricate naming system for the podcasts. I sit here right after the show and I just throw some things out there to producer Mark. And if I get one chuckle from him, we're probably going to do it. If I get two chuckles from producer Mark, then I know we're golden, right? I think that's how we do it.
Yeah, I'm in a great mood today, so you might get a lot of chuckles.
Yeah, exactly. You were in kind of a good mood today.
Yeah, you didn't ask why.
Yeah, well, I'm asking now.
My basketball team, the Hofstra Pride, they won their conference tournament last night.
Well, congratulations.
They're going to the NCAA tournament, going to the dance.
So Hofstra, okay. How's Rutgers doing?
Rutgers has the Big Ten tournament this week.
Oh, so they are on this week.
Yeah, they're on a different level. They're a high major. Hofstra's just a mid major, so have to win the conference tournament.
Was it a good game for Hofstra?
What do you like? What do you mean a good
Close
game?
game. Like,
It was a fairly close game till the end. They won
Okay.
3 games in 3 days. They won the tournament.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm excited.
But yeah, that's how. If producer Mark goes, heh, then I'm like, it's pretty good. If he laughs twice, a little bit, then I know it's awesome. And if he doesn't laugh at all, I'm like, we'll try another one.
Yeah,
We'll try another
basically.
one. That's our system. Steven. Hey, Buck, there actually is a Grand Theft Auto movie. Ryan Reynolds is one of the canned characters who turns into a player in the movie. Is that true? Is there a Grand Theft Auto movie? Or is he thinking Gone in 60 Seconds is the Grand Theft Auto movie? Because that's not the same thing.
I didn't know about this. I'll Google it and see if it's true.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me know. I didn't know about that. I'm thinking these days, especially if I have to go, like, hunker down other than doing radio and not socialize with people, which doesn't actually sound all that bad. Maybe I would get Maybe I get a PS4 and start playing video games again. I've given up video games for a long time. I'll occasionally, once in a rare while, if I'm with my 2 brothers, because we grew up all playing video games together, we'll play some kind of a sports game. But I don't know. I feel like if I get a PlayStation, I'm just going to stop doing all the books and reading and research and just start getting really good at Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah. There's times where I just don't want to do anything. It's like, I'm just going to play video games for 5 hours.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I gotta say, it sounds like a nice vacation for the brain. Doug, Buck, since resorting to personal abuse in an argument is a sure sign you've lost the argument, can we presume every dembicile has lost every argument from the start, since they're always resorting to that kind of abuse, personal insults, epithets, and character assassination? Doug, sure. I give you that. I give you my blessing on that one. Go for it. Taylor, with such high praise from Gavin Newsom toward Trump and Pence, this would be the best time for Trump to fly to California and do a joint press conference with him. Trump will lead the conversation and lead Newsom into praising him not just for this, but for all the good things the media never reports on in California. Trump is not afraid to carry his shield into California. Taylor, that's interesting. I don't think Newsom would do that. It would be considered brand damaging for him if he did, I'm sure, but it'd be interesting. Look, I thought what Newsom had to say about the president was very responsible and even borderline gracious, or maybe just gracious. So it is possible. Even psycho libs sometimes can put on their reasonable hat and be honest brokers about what the president's doing and what's going on. And I said to you before, I'm still surprised at how dishonest and how unhinged the conversation was when I was on Bill Maher the last time, because the first time we were actually able to have a real exchange. The second time, it's just like libs shouting at me and shouting nonsense, and they're wrong about they're just wrong about everything. What are you going to do when people are just wrong about everything? I mean, you can try to debate them, but how is that going to work? If we can't agree there's a man in the window or not, what do we do? Jill, I am so convinced that the big push for Biden endorsements will lead to a Hillary Rodham Clinton presidency, right? Could he choose her as his running mate and reap the votes of the sad losers that got ousted in 2016? Then Biden will become POTUS, then declared unfit to be POTUS, which he already is, in my opinion. And bada bing! Hillary Rodham Clinton will be the first woman president. I feel the wheels turning in that direction. Am I off? Jill, you're not alone. The great political mind and pugilist James Woods has been saying this on Twitter quite frequently. So, yeah, I think you could be right. I can't say you're wrong. It makes sense to me. Rick, Buck, thanks for doing your homework. It's refreshing to listen to you dive into the topics of the day. Mantra free. I'm originally from Oregon, and I was able to pass the buck behind enemy lines to my buddy Jeff, who has to put up with Governor Brown's socialist experiments. Several Oregon counties are trying to secede to Idaho. Libs in Portland will never allow it, but if you believe in miracles, you and producer Mark can hit the Idaho coast in 2021. Can't wait for producer Mark's segment, Shields High. Well, the problem, we want to do a producer Mark segment. The only issue we've had is that he's busy producing the show, and he's also got a new wife who expects him to do husband and wife things sometimes, like be home and be present for meals, right? So that sometimes can be a bit of a drain on you doing additional things, as much as now the people have spoken and they want more. They want more producer Mark.
I mean, listen, if the people want a producer Mark segment, then producer Mark will do a segment. I don't want to steal Buck Sexton's time.
No, man, are you kidding me? It would be great. We'd call it the penalty box. I think it would be a lot. I think it'd be a lot of fun, actually. I really do. Also want to thank all the folks who listen out in Portland, Oregon on KEX. You guys are a fantastic audience for us because, we're mentioning Oregon before, and I know Portland is crazy left-wing territory these days, but KEX out in Portland, we really, really appreciate you all listening, and please tell other folks to tune in. give some more shout outs to some other peeps this week who other stations, other of our affiliates that are really having strong showings. Team Buck is growing and growing in these areas. That's going to be the show for today, team. Talk to you tomorrow. Shields high.